So thank you very much for coming to I²CNER seminar. This is the first one in 2019. And today we have a special guest from University of Tokyo, Professor Kohzo. He is a program manager of Impact and a professor of the University of Tokyo. So today, you can see his CV in his the leaflet, and so I do not introduce in detail. But he's very active in the field of the a sliding gel and the rotaxan polymers. And today he will talk about the application of his invention to the SHINAYAKA tough polymers, particularly for automobile application. So let's welcome Professor Ito.
Thank you very much for a very kind introduction, Professor Takahara. I'm Kohzo Ito, a professor of the University of Tokyo and also a program manager of Impact. Impact means that impulsing paradigm change through Disruptive Technology program. I think this may be the largest national project for science and technology in Japan now. Today, let me talk about mainly two topics. One is some achievements in the impact programs, and the other is about the sliding materials. Sliding materials is used by some parts of some project in the impact program. So first, I'd like to talk about the overview of the achievement in impact program. Then I'd like to focus on the one key technology in the impact program, sliding materials. Okay. Let me start. Okay. I'd like to introduce what impact program is. The Council for Science, Technology and Innovation, Cabinet Office, Government Japan, which is the headquarters of the Japanese science and technology in Japan, has started impulsing paradigm change through Disruptive Technology Impact Program since 2014. And they selected about 16 program managers from Japan, and they would like to aim at a new system that, if realized, will create a disruptive innovation that brings about a change in society. So each program manager is allowed to use about $30 to $50 million budget, almost freely. So their target is different with each other. So my target is creating a new tough polymers for automobile. So for example, the other professor is focusing on for example, the spider silk creation, and the other developing the robots or something like that. Okay. So my target is a polymer. So implementation of the composite is going from the plane to automobile, as you know well. So the plane body has been made of the metals such as duralumin, as you know well. But recently, so the body is changed from the metal to the composite, CFRP composite and glass fiber composite. So this trend is proceeding to the automobile in recently or in the near future. Then the automobile weight is drastically reduced about half, which means a double fuel efficiency. So it creates a very, very drastic change in society. So the market expansion of composite is going by these new applications. But there are serious problems when we use composite for automobile. It's a high productivity and cost issue. And from the scientific view, the compatibility between the hardness and ductility is another very serious problem in the polymeric materials. Generally speaking, the harder polymers are, the more brittle they become. This is a serious essential problem in the polymeric materials. So to solve this problem, I started a new impact program to solve this serious problem. We integrate cutting-edge facilities and advanced chemistry. We developed the SHINAYAKA polymers, which means flexibility and ductility and toughness, based on the novel molecular concept to strengthen polymers. So initial target was to create the prototypes of each component for automobiles. So, and establish guidelines to toughening polymers. So we started with these 5 projects: vehicle body resin toughening vehicle body resins, and reducing thickness of tires. And we developed, we'd like to develop the new tough transparent resins, and we reduced the thickness of fuel cell membrane and lithium-ion battery separator. But in the middle of the project, we increased the target of the project to create a real concept car using these new polymeric developed materials. And then we can realize the lightness and safety by applying SHINAYAKA polymers to vehicles. So to achieve the target, we adopted the novel matrix management system for industry university corporation. I make up the dream team in Japan for the polymers beyond the conventional collaboration between the industry and university like this. And I, as a pro manager, assigned a company as each project manager and connected various technologies from the different universities with project like this. And finally, we developed a new kind of new tough polymers in the different area of the used for the automobiles. Okay. So to achieve the target, I invited distinguished professors in the field of the polymer chemistry from Japan. Professor Gun at Hokkaido University, Professor Aida, Tokyo University and Riken, Professor Harada, Osaka University, and Professor Otsuka from the Tokyo Institute of Technology. We asked them to provide a new idea to create the tough polymers by the new chemical bonding or new functional materials. Okay. And also, I asked to join the other professors, leading professors, distinguished professors in the field of the polymer physics, theory and simulation and processing. So, for example, Professor Okumura, Professor Umeno, Professor Urayama, and Professor Gun, and Professor Hiroshi Ito at Yamagata University, and Professor Keiichi Tanaka at Kyushu University, and Professor Nakajima, and Professor Takata, and Professor Takahara, Kyushu University, and Professor Jinnai, and Professor Okazaki. And I asked Professor Takahara to make a leadership of these professors to support the development of the companies. And we are allowed to use synchrotron radiation facilities, and also we can use allowed to use supercomputer K to clarify the molecular mechanism of the polymer fracture. And we focusing on the higher order structures such as crystallization, phase separation, and cross-linking and composite to create a new new tough polymers for automobiles. But main players in my project is a company. These 5 major chemical companies joined my project. So Toray, Toray's target is strengthen the vehicle body structure resins, and the Sumitomo Chemicals is create tough transparent resin by using the PMMA. And also the Bridgestone is focusing on the reducing the thickness of the tire of about half. And also the AGC, Asahi Glass, and Mitsubishi Chemical is reducing the thickness of the membrane, fuel cell battery membrane, and lithium-ion battery separator drastically. And finally, the Nissan Motor double-checked the performance of these materials, whether the performance is really used for the automobile or not. Okay. I'd like to introduce the achievement from these companies mainly today. So I'd like to introduce first of all, I'd like to introduce the achievement of from the Toray. And you know the elongation to brake and the hardness has a trade-off relation. So the polymers, harder the polymers are, the more brittle they become. So to improve the mechanical properties, usually so we add some rubber particles. Then the elongation to brake is increased. However, the such materials show the lower Young's modulus. But they, Toray used the sliding materials, holotaxan like this, and they achieved the increase the elongation to brake about 8 times now at almost the same brake, same hardness like this. And this shows the bending durability test. Usual polyamide resin shows about 2,000 times by bending times at brake about 2,000 times, but only about 5% of polytexan is incorporated in the polyamide resin and cross-linked. Then the durability is drastically improved about 45 times like this. Okay. Then the ion drop test results is completely different. So usually polyamide resin is brittle like this, but developed polyamide resin is not collapsed when they add only the 5% of polytexan. This technology is effective as a composite. These two polyamide resin has about 30% of the glass fibers. Then the conventional polyamide resin composite becomes more brittle. But you can see this new developed polyamide resin is not collapsed like this. So this is results of the polyamide resin, but it can be used for the CFRP epoxy resins. In this case, the bending number at brake is increased about 3 times by using sliding materials to the composite with epoxy, carbon fiber composite with epoxy resins. Okay. Now let me show you the next achievement from the Bridgestone. They focus on the crack propagation. So when the rubber is stretched very weakly, the crack propagates very slowly, very slowly like this, very slowly. Very slowly like this. Okay. But when you stretch the rubber more stronger, then the crack propagates very fast. The speed is increased about 10,000 times. This is called the crack propagation transition. So there is some threshold between the slow mode to the fast mode. So the Bridgestone tried to increase the threshold transition energy to the higher higher energy area. So they finally used the concept of double network gel by Professor Gun at Hokkaido University. They finally increased the transition energy about 4.3 times. Then the no crack propagation occurs at stronger tension. So this shows the results. So this rubber is a standard one, and this is a developed one. So you can see that this rubber is stretched the samely like this, and the rubber is cut. The end of the rubber is cut with a scissor. This, and this rubber, you can see the crack propagate very, very fast. But this crack is not propagated faster. So very, very slowly propagated. But these two rubbers show the almost the same stress strain curve. Almost same stress strain curve, but the crack propagation is quite different each other. So they performed a verification test with a rubber caterpillar. So rubber caterpillar has a usual rubber one side, and the other side is a developed rubber. Then the wear rate is decreased about 60%. When they use developed rubber. So then they can reduce the thickness of the tire by using these developed rubbers. And next, I'd like to show you another achievement from the Sumitomo Chemicals. They tried to develop the transparent resin for car roof. When the car roof is replaced with a transparent resin, the weight is reduced about 40% to the metal and 60% to the glasses. But the problem is the high fracture modulus and high impact strength has a trade-off relation, as you know. This shows a typical trade-off line of the transparent resins. And the impact strength and modulus or hardness has a trade-off relation. So glass is a very, very hard material, but it's brittle. On the other hand, the polycarbonate shows a very high impact strength, but it shows it has a lower Young's modulus. PMMA, polymetal methacrylate, has a higher modulus than the polycarbonate, but it's also brittle. But they developed a new process technology. They adopted a new process technology, and then they increased impact strength about over 10 times, non-break. And also at the same time, they increased hardness of PMMA about 1.6 times. So they break through. They successfully brought the breakthrough from this trade-off line like this. Okay, and so this shows the ion drop test, and the usual PMMA is brittle like this, but developed PMMA is not broken by this drop test. Okay. Next, I'd like to show you the achievement from the AGC. AGC target is a thinning electrolyte membrane for fuel cell battery. It's a mistake. Then target is reduce the thickness from the conventional 25 micrometer to 5 micrometer. The reduced thickness is reduced about 1/5. So then such reduction decreases the membrane resistance, which increases cell power, cell efficiency, and it also enhances water mobility, so which realize a uniform humid condition in the cells. So finally, such as small thinner membrane realize a smaller and low-cost next-generation fuel cell battery system. But problem is when we reduce the thickness of the membrane, such a thin membrane easily broken. So they collaborated with many universities joining in impact program. And I'd like to introduce only one collaboration because of the limit of time. So, and they collaborated with Yamagata University very, very closely, and they found some wet-dry cycle index. So this shows usually the durability of the membrane is tested with the wet-dry cycle test. So it takes very, very long time to check the durability of the such fuel cell battery membrane. But they found a very, very good index to closely related with this dry-wet cycle durability. So by the collaboration with Yamagata University. So this index consists of the 4 factors. Factor A is the fracture energy, and factor B is the stress dispersion, and factor C is the volume change in swelling, and the factor D is the puncture resistance test, grip test. So they mixed these tests and obtained this wet-dry cycle index, new index. This index is closely correlated with the wet-dry cycle durability test. So usually it takes a very, very long time, about to a couple of months, to check the durability test. But when they use only these 2 experiments in a couple of days, then they obtained this index test. After that, they can develop they can accelerate the developing speed of the new tough membrane, fuel cell battery membrane. So this shows the result. The vertical axis shows a hydrogen gas leak. So when the leak level exceeds the breaking this point, this membrane is regarded as being broken. But so this blue line shows the results of the conventional membrane with a thickness of 25 micrometer. 25 micrometer membrane is broken about 20,000 wet-dry cycle test. But you can see this red line. This shows the results of the developed membrane with the thickness of only 5 micrometer. Only 5 micrometer, but it shows very, very durable compared to the usual conventional membrane. The durability is improved like about 5 times, even although the thickness is reduced about 1/5. Okay. They obtained Toughening designed the strategy to improve the durability of the gel wet fuel cell battery membrane. Okay. Finally, I'd like to show you the results of from the Mitsubishi chemicals. They also reduced the thickness of the lithium-ion battery. The target is reduce the thickness of the lithium-ion battery from the 25 micrometer thickness to the 5 micrometer thickness, about 1/5 or 1/4 or something like that. This fuel cell lithium-ion battery membrane consists of the nanometer size holes of the polypropylene films in the dry state. So Mitsubishi Chemical's target is reducing the thickness of separator film from about 30 to 5 micrometers, so which increases the cell capacity by the 20%. But usually, such a ultra thin separator easily breaks by the puncture strength test. So they collaborated with Professor Kawai at Buma University, and they used the spring 8 beamline. This is our program can use this beamline almost freely. We can allow to use this beamline. So they, Professor Kawai and Mitsubishi Chemical clarified the mechanism of the void forming in the polypropylene resins, propylene films. So finally, they obtained the guideline to create the very uniform nanovoid, and so and control the hole size and distribution. So first, they aligned the lamella orientation in polypropylene film, and they stretch the lamella in the parallel direction first, and then they stretch vertically to the orientation to the lamella direction. Then they can obtain the void or holes, nano holes in the polypropylene resin. So finally, they can control the hole size, hole distribution, and hole shapes. This shows the results. So this is 3D 10 images of the conventional separator membrane, separated and developed separators. So you can see the conventional separator has different size of the holes and large distribution, and the direction is aligned in the one direction. On the other, oriented in the one direction. But developed membrane shows, separator shows very uniform nano holes, and it's very isotropic orientation. It shows a very isotropic orientation, and distribution is very, very narrow. So as a result, mechanical property is improved drastically. So this green triangle shows the conventional membrane of at the puncture strength test. So, but the developed membrane, the developed separator shows a very higher puncture strength compared to than the conventional separators like this. So, as a final goal, we'd like to make a concept car using these developed polymers. So, so this is introduced by the NHK News on the 28th September last year. The weight is about 850 kilograms and about 60% of the usual vehicles. And also the car has about 5% of plastics by weight and about 85% by volume.
内閣府がメーカーや研究機関などと共に進めているインパクトと呼ばれる取り組みの一環で開発されました。
And today, this car is in front of this campus, in the seat code in this campus. And after my presentation, please go to the seat code, and so that you can drive this car, and you can see and drive this car.
強度が不足し、自動車の材料には不向きと言われていましたが、今回複数の樹脂を組み合わせるなどの工夫で高い強度を実現したということです。
Max speed is now 142 km. I'd like to show you the movies of concept car. So this was on series. You can see the this guy is running. In the max speed is now 142 kilometers now for now. So, for example, the developed transparent resin is used in the back door of this car, and this frame is a monocoque of the this concept car is partly made of the new sliding materials for Texas is used. Okay. Like this. Please go to the after my presentation. Okay. So and from in addition to these achievements by the companies, so our academia is also the clarifying the basic, clarifying the molecular mechanism of the polymer fracture. So this is a basic research project for the SHINAYAKA polymers. So in this project, so we focused on these 7 sub projects. For example, the polymer fracture project, sub-project. In this case, in this project, so we clarify the fracture mechanism and explain the difference among the polycarbonate PMM and PS in the impact strength. And also we try to understand the crack propagation transition to establish the toughening guidelines for elastomers. And also we successfully developed new self-healing materials, which is harder and faster self-healing properties. So I'd like to show you such achievement by from the academia. Okay. So this shows the molecular mechanism of the polymer fracture. Usually the polymer fracture is governed by the breaking stress and the yield stresses. When the breaking stress is lower than the yield stress, it becomes brittle materials. And on the other hand, the yield stress is smaller than the breaking stress, it becomes ductile. So there is a brittle ductile transition between the brittle and ductile materials. Okay. So we try to clarify the molecular mechanism of why this transition occurs in the polymeric materials. And we successfully found the density fluctuation by the small lamellar excess scattering under elongation. And this work is mainly performed by Yamagata University. They simultaneously measured the scattering, excess scattering and stress-strain curve in the spring aids at the same time. And they found these density fluctuation in the is important to understand the molecular mechanism of the spring rate. And also the Professor Okazaki at Nagoya University performed the atomistic molecular dynamic simulation of the real system. They consider the real polycarbonate and PMMA or polystyrene which increases the molecular weight distribution, real distribution like this. And they used the supercomputer K to realize the polymer fracture in the molecular levels or atomistic levels. And they used about 100 atoms in these cells, million atoms these cells. And in this simulation, they realize the difference of the polycarbonate fracture behavior between the polycarbonate and PMMA. Polycarbonate is a ductile polymer, ductile transparent resins. And on the other hand, PMMA is a brittle resins. And from these simulations, they obtained essential reason of the polymer fracture in the which produce the difference of the difference between the ductile and brittle polymer resins. Okay. And so we tried to understand the transition mechanism of the crack propagation. In this case, Professor Okumura at Ochadumi University found the exact solution of the three-factor model realizing the crack propagation transition. This is the first findings of the exact solution in the field of the crack propagation. And also the Professor Umeno at Tokyo University performed FEM analysis by viscoelastic constitutive equation with experimental parameters. And so finally, the crack propagation transition arises from the glass transition at the crack tips. So this finding leads to the development of the very thin tire, tough tire by the Bridgestone. So thus, in the case of in the field of the self-healing resin, so our project developed a new kinds of the harder and faster self-healing materials. I'd like to introduce only one example by the Professor Aida at the University of Tokyo. They developed a very hard self-healing resin. So this is very hard. It's almost like the 0.1 gigapascal, like usual glasses. Similar level as to the usual glasses. But this self-healing resin is self-healed. This resin is self-healed very fastly. Like this. Okay. So you can see that this resin is almost self-healed in about 4 or 5 minutes or something like that. Okay, so it's almost self-healed. So in my program, so there are about papers of 254 in the project of 3.5 years. And the patent is about less than the 90s. So the invited lecture in the symposium is over the 400. And ours is 165. And news is about over the 100. Which includes the NHK Science Zero, NHK News, and TV Tokyo WBS. So today the concept car 6 TV comes to the sheet code to take the movies of the concept car. I think that this movie is broadcasted in this evening. So if you have a chance, please show that this news this evening. Okay. So now let me talk about the sliding materials, next topics. So in my project, so some companies successfully use the sliding materials to improve the mechanical properties, for example, Toray. So sliding material is one of the key technology in my programs. So I'd like to show you the some results, recent results of the sliding materials from now. Okay. So usually polymers are used by cross-linking, as you know well. So these are two kinds of cross-linking, physical cross-linking and chemical cross-linking. Chemical cross-linking is more stable than the physical cross-linking, but there are some drawbacks. So the length is between the cross-linking point is not uniform. So the on tensile deformation, tensile stress concentrates on the shorter chains. So to produce the stress concentration. So to solve this problem, so we use mechanically interlocked polymeric architecture such as catenan and rotaxan and polyotaxan. In my laboratory, so we use this polyotaxan. So this mechanical interlocked system is awarded the Nobel Prize in Chemistry in 2016, you know. And so they are expected to be applied to the molecular switch, molecular shuttle, and molecular machine, and so on. So about 20 years ago, so Professor Okumura, who is in here, has invented a new supramolecular network called sliding materials. He cross-linked cyclodextrin, cyclic molecules in polyotaxan to form the figure-of-8 junctions. So then the large deformation is possible, keeping the topology of the polymer network like this. So in this case, on tensile deformation, tensile stress is not concentrated on the shorter chains. So the figure-of-8 junction can pass through the polymer chains freely to equalize the tension of the polymer chain just like pulleys. We call this a pulley effect. Stress dispersion is automatically occurred in the sliding materials. And another important properties of the sliding materials comes from the entropy of the rings. So not all cyclic molecules are cross-linked in the sliding materials. There are many free rings remaining uncross-linked in the sliding materials. These free rings are distributed randomly before deformation. On the other hand, when the sliding materials is stretched in this direction, then the polymer chain is deformed in the short time scales, and then the pulley effect starts to occur. But what is important here, polymer chain can pass through the crossing point, but these free rings cannot pass through the crossing point. So pulley effect yields some heterogeneous distribution of free rings after stretching. So these are, in this case, entropy of rings is reduced drastically, so which yields novel entropic elasticity. This means that topological asymmetry of rings and strings yields a dynamic coupling between the conventional entropy of distribution entropy of rings by the pulley effect in the sliding materials. And I'd like to show you some recent results of the sliding motion of polymer chain or free rings in the sliding materials. I'd like to introduce the fracture behavior of sliding materials. This work was performed by Professor Mayumi, Dr. Mayumi, and Mr. Liu in my laboratory. This shows the modulus dependence of the fracture energy. So usual cross-linked chemically cross-linked materials shows the dependence of the fracture energy on the decreasing dependence of the fracture energy on the Young's modulus. And this behavior is well explained by the Lake-Thomas theory. So when the polymer chains cross-linked more densely, the fracture energy decreases drastically, like this. On the other hand, sliding material shows a quite different feature. At the higher Young's modulus, it shows still had a higher fracture energy. This is quite different from the usual chemically cross-linked materials. But this behavior is strongly dependent on how fast sliding gel is elongated, stretched. At a low strain rate, this sliding gel shows a higher fracture energy than than the fixed cross-linked gels. But at a higher, much higher strain rate, about 100 times higher, then it shows almost the same behavior of the fracture energy on the to the Young's modulus side. So this behavior can be explained by the sliding motion of the cross-linked point. At low strain rate, this sliding motion can catch up with the macroscopic deformation. Then it increases the fracture energy drastically. But much higher strain rate, this sliding motion cannot catch up with the sliding motion macroscopic deformation. So then this slidable cross-linking cannot really slide in the polymer network. So this slide material shows almost the same brittleness compared to the almost similar brittleness compared to the usual chemical gels. So this shows the strain rate dependence of the fracture energy. At low strain rate, sliding gel shows a higher fracture energy, but this energy is reduced drastically at a much at higher strain rate. From this transition, so we can obtain the how fast slidable cross-linking can really slide in the polymer network. So its time scale is about a microsec order. So we can confirm this time scale by the other experiment results, such as a neutron inelastic scattering or something like that. So next, I'd like to show you some applications of sliding materials. So recently, we collaborated with Professor Terashima at the University of Tokyo and to develop the thermally conductive tough flexible elastomers as composite of sliding materials and surface-modified boron nitride particles via plasma in solution. So in this case, boron nitride is a surface of boron nitride is modified with aqua plasma system developed by the Professor Terashima at the University of Tokyo. And so we combined the surface-modified boron nitride and with the sliding materials, and we achieved the composite materials which has good mechanical properties even with a large amount of boron nitride, up to 70% weight percent. This shows dependence of thermal conductivity on the Young's modulus. So higher thermal conductivity is achieved at the high Young's modulus materials, such as silicon carbide or alumina or something like that. But we developed very high, relatively high thermal conductivity elastomers at lower Young's modulus. And this level is almost the same as silicon rubber boron nitride system, that the tensile strength is quite different. So this red circle shows the tensile strength of the sliding materials. And this open square shows the results of the usual silicon rubbers. So you can see the sliding material, sliding rubber shows the higher tensile strength compared to the usual silicon systems. Okay. So, and I'd like to show you the another results of the high impact strength, improve the impact strength of the polylactic acid by alloying with polyotaxane. Okay. So in this case, a polylactic acid is biodegradable and bio-based polymers, which is very important, will be more important in the future. But drawbacks is brittleness of the polylactic acid. To improve the mechanical property, we use a small amount of polylactic to increase mechanical property of lactic acid. So when we add only 5% of polylactic to the polylactic acid, and the Young's modulus is almost same as polylactic acid without polylactic, but the elongation break is improved about 3 times. And this shows the impact strength test. You can see the impact strength is improved about 7 times compared to the neat polylactic acid. And recently, this polylactic slide material elastomer is used for the roll-type direct actuator from the Toyota Gosei. This actuator is now released commercially from the Toyota Gosei. And recently, the golf ball is released from the Slickson from Dunlop. If you like the golf ball, please try this new golf ball using polylactic. It will be released, I think, the next month. So if you please try this new golf ball with polylactic. Finally, I'd like to show you the very new results from my laboratory. So we recently developed a pseudo-polylactic nanoseed, novel self-assembling nanoseed from the supermolecular chemistry. This work was performed by Dr. Maeda and Mr. Uemura in my laboratory. So you know the usual there are nanoseeds such as graphene and titanium oxide, niobium oxide like this. And the biosafety of the commercial nanoseed material is a major problem for the biomaterial application. And recently we use a new nanoseed using the polylactic system. We use this 3-block polymer having the ionic carboxyl groups at both ends. And we mix this and beta cyclodextrin in water. Then the beta cyclodextrin is included for the inclusion complex. Only the polypropylene glycol component of the 3-block polymer. Then they form this nanoseed self-assembling, very vibrant, very robust, simple system. You can see that this nanoseed has the height of the 60 nanometer. It's separated in the water, and the size is about 1 or 2 micrometer. And you can see this nanoseed has this shape. So this shows the dy wax results of this nanoseed. It shows the monolith crystal, and it's a very simple. It's a very complete monocrystal nanoseed. Okay, let me summarize my talk. And these major chemical companies have developed SHINAYAKA polymers for automobile in the impact program by the close collaboration on the distinguished professors in the polymer chemistry, polymer physics, and polymer processing, and so on. And the concept car with the SHINAYAKA polymers has been constructed by Toray, Car Magic. So this car is located in the front of the Kohzo today. So please go to the drive this car. And so the slide materials as a key technology in the impact program shows the higher fracture energy and can be applied to the high heat conductive elastomer and high strength resin and so on. And recently, pursued polytaxan nanosheet has been developed in my laboratory. I'd like to acknowledge and support from the finance supporting. So, okay, thank you very much. So this shows a picture of the impact program meeting in 2017. About half of the participant comes from the company. In my impact program, and company and university is closely collaborating to each other to develop a new kind of tough polymer. And so, I think that we really developed a very new tough polymers in my impact program. Okay. Finally, I'd like to show you my picture. It's a professor with a Professor Toray last spring in 2018. Thank you for your attention.